Today, we become legends.
With Smite 1's lifecycle sort of coming to a close with the announcement of Smite 2 not long ago, now is the perfect time to answer the question of which of the 11 seasons we've had over as many years is the true GOAT. I sent out a survey to my YouTube audience, my Discord server, and the Smite Reddit to gather data from as many Smite community members as possible on 4 key aspects of what makes a good Smite season. Number 1, the God releases of that season. Are they fun to play as and against? Are they healthy for the game? Were they reasonably balanced on release, etc.? Number 2, the general meta and balance of that season. Was the meta fun? Was it stale? Was it balanced for the most part? Number 3, SPL and pro play. Was the SPL regular season interesting and exciting in that season, and how hype was the World Championship for that year? And finally, number 4, what new content was added in that season, and were they good additions to the game in general? I asked each participant to rank these 4 categories on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being the best, and a little bit of Excel work later. I have the data prepared for you in this video. For those curious, the respondents didn't have to rank every category for every season. I made it clear that if you didn't play in a season and or don't have enough information to give an accurate ranking on something, then they can skip those ones. The blanks in the data just aren't taken in the average and don't affect much outside of a slightly smaller sample size in some areas. But without further ado, let's jump into the data. So first up, we'll go category by category to determine which season was the winner in each before I reveal the overall GOATs later on. So our first category was God releases. Here's the scores. So right away you can notice that later seasons didn't quite have the same quality of God releases that earlier seasons had in the eyes of the community. The bottom 3 seasons on this list are the most recent 3 seasons we've had. While you can sort of discount season 11 here a little bit due to Smite 2's announcement and the only God release this year being Nuts with no others announced and no God teaser trailer like we usually get, even season 9 and 10 are noticeably lower here compared to every other season. The clear GOAT of this category though by quite a wide margin is season 2, which consisted of Bologna, Medusa, Apwash, Razatoska, Raven, Kepri, Jingchen, Sol, Chiron, and Amaterasu. Season 2 clears the next best in season 3 by more than 0.2 points and is the undisputed champion of the God releases category. But what about the others? Let's take a look. So next up is the general meta and balance category. Quick note here, this data is likely the most dubious of all of them, given even myself as someone who studies this game for a job, I can't remember exactly everything that went on in terms of meta and balance for very old seasons, and there were a lot of 3s across the board from respondents here. That said, here's the data. So the trend of later seasons being worse does continue here once again, with the most recent 3 seasons in terms of general meta and balance being ranked the worst, with season 10 taking the trophy for the worst of overall meta. I do think there might be some level of recency bias here, as people are more likely to remember the bad experiences of these recent years more than earlier seasons like season 3 and 4 with Golden Bow and Fatalis for example. The overall GOAT for general meta and balance was season 5, which I do agree with for the most part. I don't remember anything particularly being giga broken back in season 5, even King Arthur, who was released at the tail end of the season, didn't become popular until season 6. Sure, there were some balance issues like release Pele, Golden Blade Mercury before they changed his one, original Berserker Shield, and some others, but for the most part, when I look back at season 5, I think it was the most fun and balanced meta to play in. Well-deserved GOAT of this category. Moving on to SPL though, which will also be a little bit dubious as not everyone watched every season of SPL, but hopefully people at least remember the World's Finals of each season they played in. Here's the data. And again, it's not looking great for Smite's latest 3 seasons, as they once again take the bottom 3 places. Of course, season 11 takes the bottom spot here, given we don't even have SPL and only minor community tournaments for any kind of pro play this year. Discounting that, season 9 was the worst rated year of professional play for Smite, which was the year of Titans versus Kings in the finals, with Kings winning 3-0, and a generally dominant season from Kings for the most part. The best season was a very close race between season 2 and season 5, which were Epsilon versus Enemy 3-0 and Splice versus Rival 3-2 at Worlds respectively. Ultimately, season 2 came just out on top, which I do think I agree with. In terms of the best Worlds, there's more competition from SK's legendary run in season 6 and Dragon's run in year 10, but even then, Worlds season 2 was hype AF, with even the semi-finals of Epsilon versus Cloud9 and Enemy versus Paradigm were amazing in their own right. Epsilon versus C9 3-2 in the semi-finals is in contention for the best set of SPL ever in my book. So overall, I think season 2 winning this category makes perfect sense. It was an amazing year of SPL and the start of Epsilon's 2 years of dominance in the pro scene. Moving on to our final category though, which was new content. Here's the data. The trend of later seasons being worse generally continues here, but not quite to the same extent. Season 1 actually takes the place of season 10 in the bottom 3 this time, which I think does make sense. There really wasn't too much new content in season Season 1 outside of Siege being added and a few reworks for gods. Season 9 takes the overall worst spot for this category though, which I personally don't see why really. It wasn't one of the absolute best years for new content by any means, but we did get Obelisk, Indra's Scepter and Trebuchets throughout the season, branching tier 3 relic upgrades, the glyph system and some new items. There were however some quite controversial changes like patch 9.5 and sweeping buffs and nerfs to many gods at once that likely dragged this season down to the bottom spot. Personally, I think Season 1 should be here just because of the sheer lack of almost anything new brought to the game there, but it seems like patch 9.5 is hated so much by the community that it drags Season 9 all the way down to the bottom spot. Taking the GOAT spot for new content though is Season 2, which is another one I'm a little bit confused about. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Season 2 lover through and through in terms of meta, god releases and SPL, but I think if anything this is the one category where it does fall short. We got a new conquest map, the addition of Clash, the clan system overhaul and a few new items, but other than that we didn't really get too much compared to some other seasons that placed lower than this. The only one that somewhat came close was Season 5, which makes some sense given the radically improved conquest experience from the new map and additions like Pyromancer. That said, I do think the later seasons have been done a little dirty in this category as they straight up have a lot more content than older seasons, even if some of that content such as 9.5 or teleporters are big misses. However, that's the data and I can't change it. Let's get into the moment you all came for and reveal the final overall rankings with each of the 4 categories taken into account. So given the single category results, it's probably no surprise that Smite's latest 3 seasons take the bottom 3 places, with Season 11 being the lowest by a decent margin. This makes total sense though, since the SPL score for Season 11 was practically non-existent and the god releases score was also low given we have no god teaser and only note to go off. Plus with the announcement of Smite 2, there are likely a lot of people not even bothering with Season 11 as they wait for the sequel to release fully. In terms of the top 3, we have Season 3 at 3rd place, which is surprisingly high to me. The god releases were pretty mid in my view, with some big hits but also some big misses, though the community rated Season 3's roster much higher than I would personally, so I guess this makes sense. The meta for Season 3 was very unbalanced, with plenty of broken god releases like Erlang and Susano, alongside stuff like Golden Bow and the removal of speed buff for a time during Season 3. SPL was definitely great though, and while some of the new content wasn't great in my opinion, there definitely was quite a bit of new stuff to try for Season 3. Season 2 takes 2nd place overall, which I think makes sense. This is my personal goated season, mainly due to the god lineup and absolutely killer year of SPL, but there were absolutely reasons to dislike Season 2, such as the extremely unbalanced meta and not too much new content, so placing high but not quite the GOAT makes total sense to me for Season 2. Season 5, however, I can totally see this as being the GOAT season of Smite overall. It was somewhat of a revival for Smite after Seasons 3 and 4, which were quite horribly balanced and hurt the game enormously. The new conquest map was the main highlight of Season 5, but the meta in general was far more balanced, fun, and fair than the likes of Season 2. The god lineup was also very solid this season, albeit a little bit small, and SPL, while not quite as good as Season 2 or 3 for me personally, was still extremely good in Season 5. This season pretty much didn't do anything majorly wrong in my view, with probably the most fun and balanced meta Smite has ever had, solid god releases, great SPL, and a good amount of new content. Where other seasons might fall short on one of these categories, Season 5 did it all well, and I can absolutely see why the community would vote it as the GOATed Smite season. Even if Season 2 was my personal favourite, Season 5 is definitely a close second for me. But that's all I've got for this video. Let me know your own personal thoughts down below, and maybe even your top 3 seasons if you got the time. Catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.